Oh, yes, good evening, and welcome to the literature review of Star Trek Cinema Verite on the pages of the written word. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Robert McCullough, the third Esquire. Say hello to the folks, Rob McCullough.
Hello, everybody. I am the Blob Bomber, Lord Rob the Madness, with my friend the Gypsy King Butch here. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to Star Trek Vulcan. Unfortunately, I have an irrational hatred of gingers, so I'll be signing off, Butch.
Luckily, I took care of that problem. I'm only sporting the bald head these days. Even my beard is mostly gray now, so your fear of gingers or your irrational hatred of gingers is unfounded as long as I don't expose myself
all right,
to
well,
you.
I guess I'll proceed then.
Yeah, so
but I am filing an official complaint with Starfleet Command when I get back.
There will be that is definitely a theme of this book. So we are doing tonight the fifth original novel in the Bantam series. That would be Vulcan with an exclamation point. So Rob was correct to say it with aplomb. Which is written by Kathleen Sky, although in the foreword she gives a lot of credit to her husband with helping with the plot points. It's 175 pages. It was published September 1978. Like I said, the fifth novel. They had done, of course, novelizations of all of the episodes of the original series, and I think they were still working their way maybe through the novelizations of the animated series at this point, which itself was only like 4 or 5 years old, depending on which season you're talking about. But yeah, so we have, and of course we are still a year away from the first actual on-screen appearance of any of these characters since Turnabout Intruder, which would be the next year, 1979, when Star Trek the Motion Picture debuts, and we're still a good 9 years away from it appearing back on TV as Star Trek The Next Generation. So this is how people got their Star Trek fix back then, was these novels. So here we are on our fifth one.
Free VHS, right? There's no going to rent a videotape. You can't watch the episodes anywhere unless it happens to be on TV.
Yep.
Books.
It's pretty amazing. And of course, Rob and I cut our teeth on Star Trek novels. That's how we got our Star Trek fix, except for the 4 p.m. Every day on weekdays, watching Star Trek episodes. Tried to complete our entire collection of all the Star Trek episodes. At that point, I think when we were watching them for the first time, I don't think I'd seen all of them. So we were working our way through to watch them because there was no way, A, to know if you'd seen all of them, or B, to know how many there were or what their titles were. I mean, sometimes we'd watch one and we're like, we've never seen this one before, which was a very cool thing. And, of course, so all these books are like that, though. Right, something less magical, but unlike the TV show, which was on for an hour and then it was over and it was gone, you can go back and reread these and think about them, and they can inhabit your mind just as much as the Star Trek episodes that we knew and loved so much. So,
yeah, it's funny, Butch. I called my mom yesterday because she's been in poor health, and she was reminiscing, and she goes, I was like, yeah, I talk to Butch every week, and she's like, oh, I remember coming home and you guys would be watching the Twilight Zone. And I was like, it wasn't the Twilight Zone, Mom, but you're close.
Close miss. But funny you mention that, because you and I have talked about doing a slow walking wade through the Twilight Zone episodes, which someday maybe we will. That'd be kind of interesting.
And the other one that would be fun to do that with is Alfred Hitchcock Presents. I love that show so much. But that probably calls for us both being retired.
Yeah, I think so, because at some point, there's I don't know how many Alfred Hitchcock Presents are, but I think the Twilight Zone is like in the 180 to 200 something range.
Like 360 or something.
Oh, yeah, so that gets fun. So, in theory, like these novels, you could just do what we do with the novels and with the other things. You just, every time you do one, you put it on the rankings and you rank them as they go. That would be a long project, 300 episodes, buddy. Yowza.
That would probably take us to the end of our lives.
Yeah, no kidding. No matter how long that is. Well, until then, we have this book in front of us, Vulcan, in front of us, and so we have a couple things. We have new characters to meet, new villains to meet, some callbacks to previous episodes, which we always like to talk about, and some other interesting stuff. So let's. Where should we start? What's the mission on this? Is that there's something going on with the neutral zone, It's going to cause a planet to be on the other side of the neutral zone, and they got to do a quick study to make sure that they're cool with the aliens on this planet becoming vassals of the Romulan Star Empire. Because if they're smart and intelligent and they need saving, the Federation might have to stick its neck out to save these possibly intelligent creatures on the planet Arachne. I wonder what kind of creatures those might be on a planet called Arachne. But...
Yeah, it was a fun. I thought this was a fun premise. So, due to shifts in the galactic magnetic field, which I guess is how they establish neutral zones, and I had never really thought about it, but that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Sounds sciencey enough. The once Federation territory that Arachne was in is going to shift to where Arachne is now on the Romulan side of the tracks.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was interesting, and I think we've seen stuff like that since in the various shows and stuff. So that was good stuff.
And I do like the fact that
Star Trek Generations, they had something like that, right? Moving stuff around.
A little bit. Yeah, that's true. Exactly. So in this case, for those of you who are familiar with the movies, more so than the TV series, in the movies, they spent a lot of time talking about the Klingon neutral zone. Well, in the original series, it was the Romulan neutral zone. They didn't have a neutral zone with the Klingons, of course. They were always at war with the Klingons, but this whole neutral zone thing was very much a Romulan Star Empire thing. And they established it with the first appearance of the Romulans in the episode entitled "A Balance of Terror." Hold on, allow me to bust out my.
Nice.
Woo!
That's awesome, Butch. Did I tell you I have the? That's a great shirt. I have I have a coffee table book of that guy's art of all the episodes.
Ooh, snap! That would be awesome.
It's awesome.
I do like that guy's artwork. So I'm wearing a T-shirt by a guy who did movie posters, old-fashioned style movie posters for every episode of the original series, and I'm wearing Balance.
The coolest thing ever. Maybe the coolest thing of all time.
Yes, absolutely. So I can't have enough of these T-shirts, but I feel I can't just go out and buy all 679 of them either. So. But anyway, so yeah,
the ones that I bought a few years ago.
So because of that, we're gonna meet a new Romulan commander. He's actually gonna get a name. They're not just gonna call him Romulan Commander this time, so that's interesting. And of course, we're gonna meet a new girl in the blue science outfit, Dr. Catalia Tremaine, and we're gonna get to see literally, not literally, but in a literary sense, more of her than you would normally see of. Female crew member on a TV show because, so anyway, we'll get there. It's all good. And there are callbacks to other episodes. There's callbacks to Devil in the Dark, the Enterprise incident, the Deadly Years, maybe even a little bit from a private little war in there. So that's kind of interesting. And then, of course, I think my favorite line from the whole thing is, let me see if I can read this quote. My favorite line from this entire book is... Oh, God, why didn't that woman let me Sigmund her? Yeah, you can't say. There are children watching this. You can't say that. Come on, man.
We've been there, yeah.
But anyway, so I thought it was a pretty fascinating premise, and we'll see how it goes when we get by the time we get to the end of this. So, What do you say we take a traipse a little bit through here? So, the book starts out. It's 20 chapters long. So the book starts out. With the captain getting his briefing about, and as he gets his briefing, we, the viewer, are also given the story. Like you said, the neutral zone is shifting because it's demarcated by magnetic fields, and those are going to be shifted by a giant ion storm that's slowly raging through the galaxy, which is going to mess up this. And of course, it's kind of like when in state government, the Oregon state statutes literally say in statute where all these markers are, and that's how they demarcate between the different 36 counties and stuff like that. So what you figure in intergalactic treaty, it's like they say, okay, wherever this magnetic field is on this side, it's this, and this side, it's this. So that's the official boundary. So that field moves. That means that the boundaries between the Federation and the Romulans move, which is, like you said, a really cool idea. I mean, they have to demarcate somehow, so that makes sense that they would use something that's theoretically non-changing, except now it's changing.
Yeah, I thought this was interesting since everything else in the galaxy is moving constantly. Planets are in orbit, stars are moving around, everything's expanding and doing whatever. The idea that you would have some kind of stationary marker being the magnetic fields makes sense. So I thought I thought it was a great premise. Yeah, for sure. Very cool.
Yep. So they're going to have to go on this mission to this planet Arachne. And of course, let's just say they are trying to avoid any Romulan Imperial entanglements, as it were. In order to study this, because they need more exobiology on board to study this alien race, they're bringing on board Kathleen Tremaine, who is like a preeminent, maybe even galaxy famous exobiologist, and Spock and Bones are excited to work with her because she's like a legend, and so they, as always is the case in Star Trek, when you have a legend and you have a chance to meet them, you're very excited. They never remember that they are always disappointed by the legends when they meet them.
Yeah, she's going to come across, I should say, I'm foreshadowing a little, as slightly less likable than the Führer, John Gill. So, yeah.
That's exactly right.
But according to the cover on the book that I have, she's smoking hot, as well as the Federation's top exobiologist.
Yep. I do have a picture of her here on there with Spock on the cover, wearing the blue, which is a very important science outfit, of course. So their mission then is to go to Arachne and find out if the aliens that live there are intelligent and if they want Federation protection. And so they wait for Dr. Tremaine to beam on board, and McCoy and Spock are in the transporter room, and they're very excited, and she beams on board, and the first thing she does is basically just start shooting eyeball daggers at Spock. She hates Vulcans. And
I was picturing the look that my wife gave me at 6 a.m. Saturday morning when I woke her up. Yeah. That's the withering look she gives.
We've
Spock.
all been there. Yeah, so trust me, we know what that is. So as Chapter 2 starts, she is already really bristling and loudly complaining that she will not work on the same ship as there is a Vulcan. They make her physically ill. She has nothing good to say about them. And so she immediately demands that they call the commanding officer of Starbase 11 where they're leaving, who happens to be Commodore Stone, which, by the way, that's a callback to, if I'm not mistaken, to court-martial, right? Because he was Commodore on the station where Kirk is going to go through the court-martial process, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so.
Percy
And
Stone,
I like that. I just want to say that first chapter felt like a pre-title sequence, didn't it? It was great. It was a great
really
chapter.
really Star Trek-y is how it felt, right? Exactly. And then it has that big da 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 hit the credits, and now you're coming out of the credits, and it's like we're getting a little bit more of the story. They're playing, who's directing the episode and all that other stuff. While she's bitching and moaning that she's not going to work with a Vulcan. It really puts McCoy and Spock in an uncomfortable position, because Spock obviously, is like, well, he's used to people like, saying bad things about him. But McCoy feels kind of like immediately on the defense. He's like immediately like, hey, what are you doing? It's like this, he can't believe that this person he's like admired from afar, not knowing her, is like kind of a bitch, if you don't mind me saying so.
Yeah, it's and they do some other fun stuff in this. I'm on chapter 3. I don't know about you. Chapter 2 is just kind of glaring and stuff, but chapter 3, they also do. She's sort of, we find out she's sort of with wink wink Commodore Stone,
yes.
And she's a widow. We learn a little bit about marriage in the 23rd century. The marriage contracts and stuff. We also learn about Bones' divorce and his daughter Joanna.
Absolutely.
And I didn't know that he had always wanted to go into space medicine. I'm not sure about that, but he says it. So
yeah, that's the thing about writing novels back then is, some of it was still a little bit unknown at that point. But having a call out to his daughter Joanna, who's never mentioned by name in the original series, but I think is in the animated series and stuff like that. So, and maybe
she was
in
in
some
a
of the
script,
novelization.
right?
Yeah,
she was in a script.
So
of the
that means
series.
she was in some of the Bantam novelizations too, because they worked those off of the scripts. So that's cool. Yeah. So
no character who's never done anything has gotten more press than Joanna McCoy. She's never appeared in anything.
Exactly. Someday, though. Someday. So, yeah. So then, but meanwhile, she is forming a relationship with Dr. McCoy, who's trying hard to lay on the Southern charm, I might add, by the end of Chapter 3. So, Chapter 4, we see Kirk feeling torn about his mission. Which he kind of feels like he's been put on the spot by the Federation Council, which itself is split over whether this mission is worth it. Some of them don't think it's worth it. It's like, okay, so what if these guys do want to be saved? Are we going to go to war to save these guys? I mean, what can we do? What is this really all for? So he feels like it's a little bit of a useful mission and stuff like that. But he has this Tremaine problem also to solve. Who's gonna get her medical exam? All right, that's kind of fun. So obviously, when they're in medical, Chapel is completely on Team Spock, of course, and Tremaine and Bones are jousting over whether anyone can fix her problem or whatever. Bones is convinced she's a walking time bomb. The idea is this is a sensitive mission. She has these psychological problems. What happens if they're on the planet and she just literally they spend a lot of time worrying that she could literally try to kill Spock, which seems a little bit weird to me, but that shows kind of it's like, they obviously understand she has like a pathological hatred here, is what.
Yeah,
it is.
and I thought it was fun too that Kirk has what I would consider a slight overreaction, because he is already filing an official complaint about Dr. Tremaine, and it's only Chapter 4 for crying out loud.
Well,
and he's put up with some assholes before on the show.
Yeah, I think I have a theory on that. He's definitely predicting an HR complaint from Dr. Tremaine, so he's getting out of ahead of that by putting a complaint first, so that oh no, she was a problem. You'll note in the record that I said she was a problem the second she came on board. So all this HR thing is just a response.
This is shaping up in a lot of different ways to be an HR nightmare. Bones is not being subtle.
He's a captain for 20 years in Star Trek at least. So you don't remain captain for 20 years unless you know how to head off HR problems at the past. And let's just say Kirk is a walking, talking HR nightmare as it is. So he's good at it.
He did find the Kirk rule, which is the Christmas party loophole in Starfleet regulations. So yes, I think he's used that to his advantage before.
Yes, you're darn right he is. So so now we're gonna with the end of Chapter 4, they started what's called a Sigmund test, which is a long series of questions followed by a break, followed by more questions, followed by a break, and followed by this goes on for a while is what I'm trying to imply here. There's some drugs involved. They administer some drugs as part of this to make her more truthful and stuff like that, and do some interviewing and stuff. It's all really weird to try and follow this and figure out, what all the questions are doing and why they're in the order that they're in. But the part that really messed me up is when they get in Chapter 5 and and oh, by the way, bump up the pentothal another 30%, and that way she won't be lying to us. She'll be telling us the truth. I was like, why don't they just waterboard her? Isn't that easy?
You're missing the best part. I can't believe you missed this in Chapter 4, Butch.
Oh, what's that?
McCoy. There's a line about McCoy by the author. It says, "Professionalism was warring with his gonads."
I totally missed gonads. If I'd have seen gonads, I would have recognized it. That's awesome. I think that was the subtext. I just didn't know it was literally the text.
Yeah, that's the line of the night. I defy you to top that.
I thought I was topping it with the whole, why didn't she let me Sigmund her? But no, gonads is way better. You cannot go wrong with throwing out gonads. That is great. I will say that they fell in the other G word that they use way too much. They fell in love with was gestalt. This author must use gestalt like 6 times. I was like, yeah, we get it. It's like
I thought I was back in grad school. Yeah. They would drop it every day in there.
Oh, I knew you would. You would be familiar with it. That's for sure.
We do find out some interesting facts during this segment, which is, her dead husband, the captain of his ship, had been Vulcan.
Yeah,
and possibly played a role in the death of her husband. So it's like, oh, okay, that's planting the seeds, if you'll pardon that expression.
Yeah, because I think the gist of it is that the ship, the Calypso, that he was on, got infected with some parasites that weren't parasites on biological matter, but they were metal parasites or whatever, and they're like destroying the ship slowly. And the captain logically came to the conclusion that if the rescue ships aren't going to get there in time, they're all going to die cold in space. And if they do, then the rescue ship, when it arrives, might get infected and take it back to Federation. So to save all of this problem, the Vulcan captain of the Calypso, self-destructs the ship. Everybody on board, including her husband, now her ex-husband, and of course, 22 hours later, the rescue ship arrived. Boy, this feels a whole lot like something that got Kodos the Executioner into trouble, if you ask me.
It does.
Yeah.
So. Although, even if the rescue, there's a good chance, and I think they mentioned this in there, there's a good chance the rescue ship would have got taken over by these parasites, too.
And that was too much of a risk, and I think that's why the captain of the Calypso, Captain Selleck, I believe his name is, made that decision. So that's where we are right there, and the problem is that a little bit later they're having a discussion about the Sigmund, and Spock points out, hey, yes, I know her husband was on the Calypso. Did you happen to know her parents were on the Calypso too? Oh, he did. Yeah. McCoy didn't know that.
Oh, snap.
Yep. Oh, snap. And so there's a little bit of, immediately there's a little bit of McCoy questioning he was certain he'd figured out Catalia's problem, and then only to find out, whoops, I missed a detail, and now he's having an existential crisis as a surgeon / psychoanalyst or whatever.
Yeah, is he too close to the problem kind of thing?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then there is one other thing. Then we meet another character in Chapter 6, and that is Dr. Ruth Rigel. She's another one of the scientists. And we meet some, I will say, I thought Gestalt was a word that was too much used in this book. I will say another one, which I thought was just a word being used, but it's actually the name of another character that we're introduced to, and that is Dr. Rigel's furry animal friend, which I believe the animal's name is Fuzzy Butt. They keep saying,
I could have done without that.
I hear that all the time. Older people refer to pets as their fuzzy butts. But in this case, so I thought when I was reading it that they were referring to a fuzzy butt. But in this case, Dr. Rigel has named her pet whatever. The name of the pet is Fuzzy Butt. So it's capital F Fuzzy Butt. This might be. Yeah. I'm spending a lot more time talking about fuzzy butts on this, but that becomes an important thing because the fuzzy butt is going to result in McCoy missing his chance to be in the landing party. But that's not that we're coming up to that. So
yeah, it's different than the lowercase f fuzzy butt that my wife calls me on occasion. But it's I could have done without the whole fuzzy butt angle. Of just get rid of it.
Yes.
Her husband did her a disservice by not striking out every mention of fuzzy butt in the rough draft.
You're talking about the author Kathleen Sky's husband. You're not talking about Catalia's husband.
No, I'm talking about Kathleen Sky. Yeah, she gave her husband a shout out. I didn't clarify my pronouns. But,
he, her, and hers. All right. So then here's the thing. So this is what I think is maybe one of the most interesting things about this book, because in the novels we've read so far, the one thing we know about Spock, who is the one character who's featured prominently in all of the novels, I think, even if he's not even in most of Spock Messiah, he's like the entire focus of it.
He was too busy.
That's right. But the thing about it is that all those novels, especially the first few, mention just how all the ladies love them some Vulcans, especially Spock. What is it about Spock and Vulcans that the women just cannot put down? And so he's adored, and men want to be him, women want to be with him. And now in Chapter 7, we find out that this iteration of the Enterprise, there is a growing fifth column anti-Spock contingent of the crew.
But we saw that in the original series.
Oh, yes,
though.
we did.
Saw that in Balance of Terror. Yes. We saw that in a couple different things. So
yes, we certainly
I
did.
like that. I thought that made sense because Spock is such a perfectionist and he's so anti-fun that he's something of a taskmaster.
Yep.
And so I can see it.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know who else can see it? Latimer, Gaetano, and Boma can see it. I'm telling you that right now. We just, of course, did the Galileo 7 not too long ago on the podcast, and they definitely were forming their own fifth column. It's just it was a fifth column. The list got a lot shorter, a lot quicker. than on this one. So now Dr. Tremaine, as the resident new hates her some Spock on board, gets a visit from this contingent, which is led by Lieutenant Theodore Lowry.
You know what this reminded me of, Butch?
What's that?
Because we had Dirty Harry Week this week at home. It reminded me of Magnum Force. Right? You got some hotshot rookie cops, vigilantes, and they just assume that Callahan's going to want to join the crew.
Yep. And
what a surprise when he demurs.
That's an excellent example of that. You're right, because she demurs pretty hard on them. Just basically cuts them to ribbons. I will say that I have to point this out because of the other ones are Shigeta, who's an engineer, Angie Dickinson. Yes, that Angie Dickinson. Yes, the Angie Dickinson. And of course, Hans Gruber as well. No, I'm sorry, that's Hans Mueller. We missed a real opportunity. If I could have done my Hans Gruber impression, but he really doesn't get much chance to talk. It's just basically all them. Yeah, we all hate him. We hate him for different reasons. Why do you hate him? And she's like, yeah, you're a fool, you're a moron, and you're essentially a mutineer. So away with all of you. And so that
she called Lowry the new Dunsel.
I forgot that's a call out too. Dunsel, using that term.
Yeah.
That's your call out to the ultimate computer. So well done. I had forgotten about that one. So then Chapel gets into it with Tremaine, and then Spock comes in and he gets into it with Tremaine. And then I wrote down it's kind of a three-way. Did I get that right? Am I using that term correctly?
I think so. Google it and see.
Okay.
I thought it was fun too. We had a very un-PC retarded child remark. Ouch.
Yeah. Some of this stuff does not hold up. I'm going to say that a lot of the stuff in here, they spent a lot of time talking about Dr. Tremaine's hysterics, and I think that's a term that's kind of gone out of style. The way how women are, right? That's what that's, and I think that's probably something we don't. Even if sometimes we feel like we can kind of see that in people around us, we don't talk about that stuff. If for no other reason, we fear those people. And I think they're right to fear her. That's exactly what they're experiencing here. Well, we got to treat her a little bit with kid gloves because she might just kill all of us. And I think we've all been there, right? So, okay.
Well, and I think she was definitely in a position where her rank allowed her, if she wanted to squash them like some grapes, their careers would be over.
Yep. Exactly.
Also, there's a description of so Spock and Tremaine are going to co-lead the planetary expedition.
Yes.
And there's a depiction on the cover of what these aliens look like, which is giant ants.
Yep. Black ants, yes.
Dog-sized ants, I think they're referred to. However, they're described a little differently in the book than the cover. What'd you think?
Fuzzy yellow fur, right? They're kind of covered with yellow fur in the book. Whereas on the cover of the book, they're just black ants, big old black ants. And so, I think that's kind of interesting. They don't look just like, you go to another planet and they have ants just like ours, except bigger. They are kind of different looking.
I wouldn't have bought the book if it had it accurately depicted on the cover. I would have scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, that's a good point. So they are disagreeing before they actually ever go down to the planet. They're disagreeing. We do get the whole Bones and Tremaine, by the way, we should mention, are getting closer, right? They have a growing relationship. It's unclear whether she's still trying to use this to kind of have McCoy help her get her way on the landing party. She really doesn't want Spock to go down to the planet. She wants Spock to run operations from on the ship while she's in charge on the planet. But like you said, they're going to be in charge together. And so they do, when they arrive at Arachne, they all get together in the briefing room. Just like in every episode of Star Trek, we're going to have a briefing room scene where we got that little tiny television on the desk where they're going to see all the pictures of stuff.
I want, sometime in my lifetime, I want one of those triangle televisions. Don't you?
Yeah, it seems like that would have been a great thing for video games and stuff like that.
Just to have on the desk. It doesn't have to work, just as a prop. That'd be great.
All right, so we're hearing you loud and clear that that's what you're hoping for your upcoming birthday or Christmas. That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
So, go ahead.
I was just going to say one more thing, Butch. But what was it? Oh shit. Oh. No, I lost it. Whatever it was, it's gone.
I had a thought. It's gone. Well,
Thank you. Age 51.
yes, there you go. So then Kirk finally decides he's going to have his sit-down meeting with Tremaine. So he calls her into his office. They have some tea, and he tries to talk. She tries to convince him to do things her way, and he's not going to be swayed. He references Sarek, which she finds offensive a little bit, and she essentially threatens to report him to HR about this stuff. And that's before that's before she accused him of trying to add her to his collection, as it were.
Yeah, it's gonna get interesting. Oh, I thought of what it was. I forgot, Butch.
Yeah.
So you mentioned how McCoy and Tremaine are getting closer. If there's one thing I've learned from watching the original series, it's that all these senior officers of the Enterprise are ready to fall in love and get married within seconds of meeting a new hot chick. We've seen it with Scotty, we've seen it with Bones, we've seen it with Kirk. It's really kind of an interesting thing. Like, these guys are so good at everything else in their careers, but obviously there is a lack of companionship and meaningful relationships in their lives in some respect.
That's exactly right. And McCoy is definitely looking for, maybe you could join the crew. That'd be great. I know, we wouldn't even have to get you quarters on board. You could just live in my quarters, or at least, live near my quarters. That'd be even more handy here, So that'd be great. So like I said, Kirk is having his meeting with Tremaine, and then Spock comes in, and the three of them have a meeting together, and they disagree about the size of the landing party. Tremaine ends up getting her way on that because Spock's like, we only need a few people. And Tremaine's like, I don't want to be down there without lots of protection, so we need lots of people. And Kirk eventually agrees with her.
Red shirts for everybody.
That's exactly. You get a red shirt, and you get a red shirt. That's exactly. Nothing ever has gone wrong when we do that. So then they beam down, and they set up camp, and immediately set up camp, and they say, hey, look, isn't that a crystal cave over there? We should go investigate that. So a couple of them go up and investigate that. Of course, Spock and Tremaine being a couple of them. They're looking around in this little crystal cave. They think, hey, maybe this is be a better base of operations. It's a little defensible. And meanwhile, Spock's like, hey, do you hear that? What's that? Do you hear that? And sure enough, while they're up there exploring the cave, the rest of their landing team is getting decimated by the Arachnians. Down at the base camp. They arrive just in time to see all but two of their crew members dismembered in what I'm assuming is a scene reminiscent right out of Starship Troopers, right? Except they're dog size instead of elephant size bugs, but it's kind of the same thing, right? There's sliced pieces of people everywhere, including two survivors, one of whom is soon to die, and the other one they think they can keep alive. So.
Well, and frankly, in Starship Troopers, the ones that were doing the slicing and dicing were dog size. So
that's true.
Yeah. So and also things have sped up with the magnetic field, so they only have about a day and a half to make this happen.
That's right. They're in a hurry.
And also, there was a reference of Kirk. When he was meeting with Tremaine, he was in Seduction Stage 2. That was really funny. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think I did note that. I didn't write it down. Yeah,
that's gold. I mean, exactly but right. Yeah, the massacre is awesome. 4 dead, 2 soon to be dead. Shit's gone down. Mayhem, I believe, was the technical term.
That's exactly right. Having just completed that, we've learned that.
Yeah, and Spock and Tremaine can't beam up because the Romulans have arrived. They're getting ready to pounce for the second the clock strikes midnight.
That's exactly right, because now the planet is in the neutral zone, which means neither of them have a right to be there, but they're both there now because it was just in Federation hands and it's just about to be in Romulan hands, so they're both there. It's a very tense standoff. We meet the ship is the Decius, who, by the way, of course, was the arrogant young officer in the original Star Trek episode Balance of Terror. See the T-shirt that I'm wearing, and so they named a ship after him because he was from an important family or whatever.
I didn't even get that reference. Good, that's good stuff.
Yeah, Decius is the one who's like, "Oh, we've got to do this for the glory of the Empire." blah, blah. And, of course, this commander is another old, seasoned warhorse veteran, just like that episode. This guy's name is Maximinus Thrax. And there's a standoff that continues. And it's interesting, this whole thing that they set up with Thrax and Kirk is that they both... And they do a good job, the author does, I think, on this, of explaining that both of them have preconceived notions about what the other one's like that leads to them having misunderstandings. And if they would just talk to each other in the open, it's pretty obvious to the reader that they would be able to solve their difficulties, right? Because neither one of them wants to fight, but they're both convinced that circumstances and the way the other guy is going to inevitably lead him into a fight. I think they did a good job of kind of describing that relationship that the two captains have, right?
Yeah. I mean, there was a real, I thought this book was interesting because they would have like a great chapter and then like a chapter that literally did nothing to advance the story or do anything. And then they would have a great chapter and then they would have a nothing. So I wonder if like the final book was like 115 pages and husband was like, hey, you might want to
punch it up a little bit. Add some
can
fluff.
Can we put a little filler in there? Maybe a little Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner and take up 14 minutes, and something to pad it out a little.
Yeah. And while you're at it, you should. And again, that it was the husband that suggested. What you should do is you should have Tremaine topless and doing a bathing scene, a la the movie Witness, while Spock is kind of like, hey, nice tatas there, Doctor. I say that in a logical way. Yes. You don't mind me looking at your tatas, do you, Doctor? So I'm sure that was the husband that suggested adding that. So, the important...
He probably would have needed his inner eyelids to kick in, when he saw that rack that we're fantasizing about.
Yep. So, the important thing is while all this is happening, the one survivor guy who was still left succumbs to his injuries because we learned that the bite has a alkaloid poison that causes tremendous pain and agony and thrashing death. So now we know that they can't even afford to get bitten, let alone massacred by these things. They're very dangerous. We still don't know if they're intelligent, and we haven't had time. They're becoming more and more convinced that they're not. But until they have proof, and until the Federation Council says they can leave, they have to stay on this planet and keep protecting it just in case, right? So,
well, for some reason, Tremaine is convinced they're not intelligent, they're mindless creatures. For some reason, Spock is being real stubborn without any evidence to back his theory that they are, in fact, intelligent.
Yeah, well...
Also, I think we had a Horta reference, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, they are. They're analyzing these aliens, but they realize that there's some other things that look like rocks, but they're actually alive, living things, and they say, boy, this sure is like the Horta from Janus 6, except less intelligent and stuff like that. They kind of treat it more like an ant would treat an aphid or whatever. It's just something that they use, another species that they that they have a symbiosis with or whatever, a symbiotic relationship with. And so that's kind of cool. And they get that idea from that because, of course, Spock has mind melded with a Horta before. That's the way to find out if these things are intelligent. It's just mind meld with one of these Arachnians. But he talks about, well, they can't just do that. Actually, that's Tremaine's suggestion, but he can't just do that because if they are an animal, then that can be a dangerous mind meld to do, right? So you really don't want to do that unless you absolutely have to. So that's where we're at this point. I wonder if anything's going to come from that thread of thinking.
Well, you are about to get your mind blown as Spock kicks in sexual harassment mode.
Yes. Holy shit. I think it's all part of a plan on his part to kind of like drag out of her kind of the story that she's been feeding him. But he's logically
sexually harassing her.
Yeah. Effectively
which I
sexually harassing her
bananas.
too. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure. And again, this is if I wrote this when I was in 9th grade or 10th grade, I could totally see me writing it this way. I'm still kind of shocked that a female writer was writing it this way, but it's kind of interesting. So it's definitely a different side of Spock that we have seen before.
Yeah, it's this kind that would have been fired immediately. But
well, why? Only his logical sense that we sleep together, Doctor. What? Yes, exactly. That's pretty solid stuff. Yep. And
it was kind of funny because we were getting hints that Tremaine was softening a bit, and then Spock, pretty pretty blatantly is harassing her, needling her about sex.
Yep.
So the walls are going right back up again.
Would you like me to seduce you? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah, so it's terrific. And then meanwhile, back on the ship, Bones is still beside himself that he's not down there. Spock continues to promise no more innuendo down on the planet, and then they find the tunnel, and they decide to go investigate the tunnel that the Arachnians came out of, the tunnel that they think that this Hordle-like creature digs for them, right? So they go down in the tunnel. This is a little bit of a longer sequence than maybe we needed it to be, but when they get down to the bottom of the tunnel, they see what appears to be kind of a very architecturally complex set of buildings that were created by secretions of the Arachnians down there. So this then begs the question again: can you be unintelligent and create something like this? And they have a bit of a disagreement about that. So it's interesting. This is kind of like building character and building tension between the characters, and also kind of building the science behind this, new race that the author is creating for us here. So it's kind of interesting, but it goes on a little long, I thought.
It did, plant a little doubt as to, it's still up in the air about whether they're intelligent or not. So it was kind of a good cliffhanger chapter 14.
Yeah, absolutely. So, because 14 ends with them leaving the tunnel as they're kind of being approached by the monsters. And, of course, Spock gets attacked from behind, from above, as it were, by one of the monsters and gets his back shredded. Nothing like removed or anything like that, not missing a limb or anything like that, but definitely injured. So that creates tension, of course, because they're still stuck down there, and we know what happens with the alkali poisoning. Yeah, exactly, right. You can't. Yeah, what are you going to do now? It's only a matter of time before that comes back to get him. So now we have that situation set up there. Meanwhile, more Romulan posturing, right? Between the Romulans and Kirk. Catalia is caring for Spock. They know the poison is going to become a problem, so they agree to bind him up. So, because if he starts thrashing the way that Williams, the last guy who died of the alkali poison, does, she's not going to be able to stop him, and he's just going to rip his wounds open and he'll die. So, they're like, we got to figure out a way to do this. So they tie him up, which again is a little bit, kids.
And the Enterprise cannot beam him up. They can't help. They can't send anybody down. They can't beam him up. Because of the Romulan problem.
That's right.
And
now,
so
I'm thinking, did we learn? Well, I guess we haven't learned this yet, but didn't we learn in Star Trek 2 that if you're on opposite side, you can be on opposite sides of the planet, right? The Decius is orbiting, they're orbiting. Just wait until they're on the other side of the planet and then beam them up when there's not a direct line of fire. But we haven't gotten there yet, so we don't really know how all the physics of that works.
And maybe the other side of the planet, maybe that already would put you in a Romulan space and you're violating the treaty. Who knows?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because they're setting up a situation. They just can't beam them up because the Romulans are there. So eventually Spock is forced by circumstance to mind meld with an Arachnian. And
he sends Tremaine off on some pretense, and now he's like doing it.
He's doing it, and it does not go well. He finds out quickly that it's just like, I'm just a poor worker ant, and all I do is think about home and work and all that stuff. And so he quickly becomes like Spock the Ant, or Ant Spock, or whatever. Ant Spock, as it were. Catalia is calling the ship for help, but it's not possible. Kirk is telling Bones to do something, but there's nothing he can do. And so things are really falling apart at this point. The traumatic tension is building to a crescendo here.
Yeah, I thought this was pretty dramatic. I thought it was a good chapter. I mean, it was like, Tremaine's even having to stun Spock over and over again because he cannot think. All his Vulcan mind control and intelligence and intellect and everything has been overridden by the one, single purpose of the ant, home. And
I like to think
Spock's gone.
I like to think that if Spock was fully his capacity, physically and mentally, that it wouldn't have overwhelmed him. But he's in a weakened state, and as a result, this is overwhelming him. And so it sets up
also jet lag and stuff. I mean, they zipped over there pretty fast.
That's exactly right, man. It's like didn't get a good night's sleep because it was cold and all that stuff. So she wouldn't sleep with him. So he's got all that going for him. And so anyway, it's weird. This is really weird. At some point, then she kind of compels him, even though he's only sort of him, to like mind meld with her. At first, when I was reading, I was like, is she figuring out how to mind meld with him? Because that doesn't seem right. But it seems like she's kind of like figures out a way to convince Spock to mind meld with her, with the hopes that she can kind of like try to sort all this out for him or whatever.
Yeah. You know what's fun about this chapter, Butch, is we got pronoun craziness, like I have at work.
Oh, man. Yes.
He, she, him, her, it, they.
Yes.
Those are all direct quotes. People don't cancel our show. It was bananas and reminded me why I often have a headache by noon at work. But yeah, it was hard to read.
Yes, but it does, however, give us some answers to the Catalia problem. And the answer to the Catalia problem is that by the time that explosion that blew up the Calypso happened, that killed her ex-husband, it was already pretty much her ex-husband. They were already falling out of marriage, and she was having a bit of a dalliance with this Vulcan captain, which McCoy had just assumed he hated because she resented him for killing her husband, but in actuality she hated because he killed himself and didn't even give her a chance to say goodbye or whatever. She's all messed up about the end of that relationship. She knew it was a problem to get into it before, and so that's why she has you're just like a Vulcan. You would do this. You would do this and not even think to care about whether you were ending a relationship while I'm still interested in having a relationship, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I don't know how smart trying to seduce Vulcans is all the time. I do get the impression if she was in a Friday the 13th movie, she would be killed almost immediately. She seems to give it away pretty free and easy.
That is definitely the first sign that you're going to be one of the early victims. But show us your tits, and we've seen them in this. So as soon as we see those, it's her time to go, right? Generally, that means you're dying in the next 3 scenes right there, just to make sure we don't have to see him again. So they manage to bring Spock out of this. They come to a bit of an agreement, but it doesn't really matter because they still have to solve the problem of how do they get off the planet. And so Kirk eventually bluffs Thrax, which, by the way, I thought it was a little bit heavy-handed. I think he called him a pointy-eared excuse for a commander at some point. Did Kirk?
Are you talking about Kirk?
Yeah, Kirk.
I thought it was a fun rant. He did go on a fun rant, and he's like, "Take your fucking planet."
Yeah,
it was good. I did enjoy it.
I was surprised he didn't say he expected to see him squatting on a mushroom or something like that. It was that level of a speech, right?
Kirk seemed a little out of character in this whole book. Yeah. A little bit. He's a little more. Usually, he's the, kind of balancing between the, dispassionate reason of Spock and the pure emotionality of McCoy. Yes. He's way over on McCoy's
He's on
side.
Team McCoy. This book, you're exactly right. I don't know if if he's. I was going to say something obtuse, like I don't know if he was on the rag or whatever. But yeah, he's not happy with the assignment. It really is the case. So. But he does eventually bluff Thrax into giving up, and then Thrax is like, "Wait a minute, you mean we won?" And he's like, "Yeah, you won. Take your planet, like you said, take your planet and get the fuck out of here." Basically, is what he says. And then we end up. So now they're back on the ship, and Spock's going to be okay because once you have the access to the medical facilities, the alkaline poison is no problem. And now they just have to deal with their problem of. Is Catalia going to come back to the ship, or is she going to go? She decides to go to Vulcan to take care of her Vulcan problem by immersing herself in the Vulcan problem, I guess.
I felt like she wrote this last chapter in the waiting room of Bantam Books 5 minutes before her meeting. It was just like, yay, we're beamed up, and Spock's cured, and I'm cured of my bigotry, and we're all pals. Good night, everybody.
It is, I will say this, in fairness to her, it is exactly how original series Star Trek episode would have ended. Everybody's fine now, but you can't stay because then we'd have an extra crew member, and we only paid you for this week's episode, so you got to go.
Since Blofeld can't do a drive-by, you just have to find another reason to get the fuck out of here.
Yes, that's exactly right. But maybe she'll come back someday. And Lenny, I like how she was calling him Len and Lenny. That was great.
Yeah, I guess it was better than Fuzzy Butt, but not much.
That would have been, that's your term of endearment. That's your term of endearment right there, is Fuzzy Butt. All right, so I generally like this book. I thought it felt very much like an episode of this series. I think
so. This is the sixth book we've covered, right? Counting Mission to Horatius.
Yes, Counting Mission to Horatius. It is number 6. That is exactly right. And so
how do you rank them, buddy?
So I have
this. Give me your thoughts. Like you were.
So I mean, and I'll have you give your rankings first before I do. So I think, like I said, I think this felt more like a Star Trek episode than any of the books we've read so far. Horatius was close to that too, but this one feels more grounded in the series than that one, and a little bit more, a little bit more kind of character building than that. We still get almost nothing from all the other members of the crew. Basically, the only ones we really get to spend much time with are McCoy and Spock. Kirk's only in there to be a balancing act, and he's out of character. And we get just little tiny bits of the others. I think they only mention Sulu and Chekhov once. Oh, by the way, they're on the bridge. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So the novels are still kind of, A, being true to the original series, and that all they do is say, entering orbit, Captain, and B, they don't give them anything to do.
Would you like a fun fact about this book, Butch?
Ooh, yeah, hit me with it.
This book was intended to be a script for season 4 of Star Trek.
Really? I can see that.
Yeah.
I don't know how they would have done the ant creatures, but I can see that.
Yeah, so I think that, it wasn't a script, but the idea was she was going to write this as a script for season 4, and then the show got canceled. Yeah. And so back in the day. And so I think that helps, with the feel and sort of the structure of the novel.
Yeah,
so,
it does. And that would make it feel
I'm
like
with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're trying to write it with the same usual rhythms and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think for sure I definitely thought this one was pretty good. I thought it was an interesting premise. I like the fact that they had Romulans in it, and they were acting like Romulans. They seemed like Romulans. You could kind of picture the guy being a Romulan. I kind of you know what I pictured him as? I pictured him as the guy who played like the head German guy in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade as the Romulan. That's with him with pointed ears is who I pictured it as. I don't know why, but that's who I was picturing.
Well, I'm not going to watch that for another week and a half.
I know.
I'm not.
When you
picturing
do,
your,
and
yeah,
when you
I
do, and when you do, you have to think of that character with pointed ears in a Romulan suit. So just trust me, it's there. But anyway, so yeah, I generally thought this was really good. So I'll be interested to see how you rank the books. But I'll wait till you go, and then I'll tell you what I have. So,
well, coming in at number 6, The Price of the Phoenix.
We are tied. We agree on that one. Yes.
Yeah, just way too much of that Kirk Spock love fest.
Yeah.
Soulmate, fucking whatever that was. On and on and on and on. Cool. And the villain's too strong. Anyway.
Yes.
Number 4, Spock Must Die.
You mean 5, right? Exactly, right? Because we have 6 now.
5, yeah. Sorry, 5.
Yeah. Spock Must Die. I think, yeah, we might be in disagreement. Keep going.
Number 4, Planet of Judgment.
Yeah, the Planet of Judgment one is another one where it's like, they would have had trouble recreating all those creatures in a pre-CGI environment. That's for sure. Yeah.
Number 3, Spock Messiah.
Yep, I agree with that. That's that's definitely our. I can't believe they talk about Spock the whole time and you never see Spock in that novel. That's great, for sure.
Was Planet of the Judgment the one where the Klingons got banished for 1,000 years?
No, that was Spock Must Die.
Okay, Spock Must Die. I was very happy that we get to keep the Romulans as characters in the Star Trek universe following the end of this novel. I was real happy about that. Number 2, Mission to Horatius, which I liked. I don't care if it was written for 14-year-olds. It was good. But I'm with you. I have Vulcan exclamation point emphatically at number 1 so far.
Yes, I think I'm going to agree with you, except I'm going to flip 5 and 4 on your list, I think. But other than that, I think we're good. So
run through it. Run through them again.
All right. So Jesus, what? Price of the Phoenix, Planet of Judgment, Spock Must Die, Spock Messiah, Mission to Horatius, and then Vulcan at number 1.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. So what's up next on our list, Rob?
Well, since I found out tonight that we missed in order Mudd's Angels, which I don't know how that happened.
So I was under the impression that Mudd's Angels was a compilation of the 2 episodes from the original series and not an actual novel. Do they add stuff?
It's like 3 stories in one novel combined into one novel.
So
apparently.
they add stuff. Okay.
Well, according to Butchipedia.
Well, then if we have it, then we're going to read it. So there we go.
Yeah, but it ain't going to be next because I have already read the next 2 books.
Okay, what's next then?
So maybe we'll do it last. But so next up, we are going to have, as I flip ahead, The Starless World.
The Starless World. Wow.
Imagine, if you will, a world with no stars. A world without heroes. I think that's my Kiss reference for the night. Thank you very much.
Well, it's 1,000,000 to 1 odds. That's how I would say about that. So, all right. So, yeah, that's tremendous.
We saw a hairless chick in Star Trek: The Motion Picture. We're going to have a Starless World as our next novel.
Well, if that's not enough of a cliffhanger for you, ladies and gentlemen, to join us for episode 7 of Journey to Bantam, I just don't know what to do with you in that case. So if you would, ladies and gentlemen, please join us next time when we continue our journey through Bantam with Star Trek, the original series, the novels.
Will it be a continuation of the Spock love fest that every author in the 70s seems to have?
The answer
is...
Or
will it be something completely different?
The answer is I'm going to bet on yes on that question. But we'll find out next time, so join us if you will. And with that, good night, good luck, and go get yourself...
What's next on PBS? Austin City Limits? What do you have?
Next up tonight is episode 8 of Ken Burns' Baseball. So.
Aurelian City Limits, next up.